just because you and I got on our 10 speeds and rode down to an independent storefront and the guy suggested records or we hung out all day, because that was the way we got turned on to music, does not mean that's how everyone has to get it turned on to music. And by the way, there's most of humanity, that's not how they were turned on to music. We will look back, that was just a way that music was sold and bought and distributed for a couple of decades in human history.
Hello and welcome to Here in LA, Eagle Rock Edition! Today, we sit down with Eugene Edwards, a longtime Eagle Rock homeowner, a father, a husband, a Native American, an atheist, and hold your hat, a real-life professional lead guitar player in a country band. Eugene's also fronted his own power pop band and released 2 albums. Slices of those tunes will be interspersed here. So let's get to it. We are here with Eugene Edwards.
We are.
Hey!
We're in the same room, same time.
Eugene, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking.
You're a busy man. You are a Fender ambassador.
Ooh, I like that. Because I think I could commit guitar crimes in another country and have immunity. I never thought of it that way.
You play lead guitar for Dwight Yoakam's band.
Yes, sir.
Not sure if you are realizing that, but that's why you're on tour a lot.
Yeah. That's the thing that keeps me out of town for the most part. And then I have other work. Fortunately, it keeps me busy when I'm in town.
You put out a beautiful power pop solo album.
2, or at least maybe just one of them was good, and that's what you're getting at.
Also,
I shouldn't assume.
You are a husband and a father.
Yes.
That's a lot on a man's calendar.
Well, you pick them up one at a time. You don't sign up for them all at once. That's the thing. It's an evolution. You stack those shelves one shelf at a time.
You also have a podcast, and we'll get into that in just a second. Because of all that, though, I'm thanking you for cutting out a little bit of time for us and for me.
Well, let me return to
a man you've never met before.
Yeah, well, I believe that people are generally good. I don't believe that there's malice in the hearts of a majority of people. So it says, hey, can you sit down and have a chat? I think, well, that's the loveliest thing that we can possibly say to one another. Also, I want to, because here's the thing about me is that nothing pleases me. Nothing makes me more happy and erases anxiety more than having a full schedule. Oh. I love waking up and knowing pretty much every hour of my day it's completely accounted. I'll say accounted for, but I don't like to end on prepositions. So I painted myself into a corner with that one. But I love knowing exactly what's happening from the moment I get up to the moment my head hits the pillow. Then I am just Jake, man. I am calm.
We're going to get deep right away then.
Okay. Oh, yeah, let's jump in.
Because
why?
If you don't have a full calendar, will evil come out?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, evil. I don't know if I don't believe there's such a thing as evil, but I know what you mean.
You're a Buddhist?
No, I'm an atheist.
Just like Joe.
You know what? Joe Armstrong pretty much stated everything, even the specifics of so much of religious conversation is polemics. So much of it is just the sheer words we use, and I think that's a lot of where the disagreements they hold space there. Krishnamurti had said the word is not the thing, and that's I love it because I love Krishnamurti. But Joe, even the specific words he used, kind of explaining his non-belief was like, I remember thinking like, oh my God, that's he nailed it. He nailed it.
Which, to your point about most people are good at their heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the gist of this podcast is. We're going to do 1,500 interviews. I'm
Yes.
going to be 69 years old before I'm done.
I love the ambition of this.
But I think at the end of it all, if I can cross the finish line,
by all means.
I think the result is if people listen to even 10 of them, they're going to say, I agree with Tony. People are generally good. And if you ask them real questions, they'll give you answers like what Joe gave.
Well, yes, and I think obviously, it's funny because we are now. I'll explain to your audience. You're not in my home in Eagle Rock,
no,
which
I'm
is
not.
unusual. Now, my house it was built in the early '50s, and it needs a lot of updating. So it's getting torn apart here and there. And I just realized I will not be able, if I try and make the house presentable to do the interview there. We'll never. And you've got to You've got a tight schedule until you're 69 years old, so I didn't want to waste your time. We want to get while the thing was hot.
Right.
So I popped over here, and we're very close to, I guess, one of the Scientology centers.
I think this is their headquarters in LA.
Oh, okay, there you go. So now I moved out here in LA in 1996,
Okay.
and I first moved to Silver Lake.
Yes.
And I remember moving out here in the mid 90s, and maybe you remember this era. Remember when we were all scared shitless about Scientology?
I was till I moved here.
Until you moved here.
I tried to move a couch in here on my first day, and the kind of homeless guys, I go, I can't move this by myself. I'll give you $20, $40, whatever you need.
Yeah.
And they go, where are you going? And I pointed to this church, and they're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, so there was a fear about them, which now that seems like it's just a safe punchline. And I don't mean of any malice. It's just like we just realized, I don't think anything really awful is going to happen if I even mention Scientology, which is
Right.
where we should be.
That's right.
Now, again, I don't normally speak about this stuff publicly on mic at all, really. But as an atheist, it's really it's no different to me than any of the other world religions.
You can dig up trash on I grew up Catholic. Are you telling me there's no skeletons in the Catholic closet?
For instance,
Right. Maybe some of the worst crimes.
That's odd. My patriotism, in terms of being a U.S. citizen, lies in really strange places. I realize, but one of the things where I really feel in my soul, like proud of my country, is that you can sue the shit out of the church. This country don't play, right? Like compared to other countries, there's like, well, you can't do that. It's like, here's a no. I mean, you touch my kid,
Right.
you'll be hearing from my goddamn lawyer. And I know that's a weird way of putting it, but that is where we are a nation of laws, not men, as they say.
right.
And it's sort of like, oh no, you can't. I know you're a huge, dominant, monolithic thing, the Catholic, but you can't do that to me.
Right.
You can't do that to my kid, and you can do something about it.
Yes.
That's very powerful. Talk about the autonomy
Yes.
of a person,
You're an excitable person. You're a lively character. You're meant for the stage, but you're also incredible behind the mic. I have not heard energy from you like when you talked about Elvis Costello's Get Happy.
Yeah, man.
And I know there's several themes in this podcast, and many of them are you can't put people in a box. You can't say,
Sure.
oh, you're Latino. You have no business in a white guy's country band.
Sure.
You play a Telecaster. You have no business talking about heavy metal.
Right.
All this nonsense, which is total nonsense,
Sure.
right? So, Get Happy,
Yeah.
which I don't believe has any guitar solos.
It sort of does. Okay, so that's interesting. You're right. What would attract a guitar? Yeah.
If I were to put you in a box.
No.
But the thing is that you like it just like I love it because there's 20 great songs.
It's hooks, the melodic movement. Also, he lets the band is playing in that Stax Volt Motown. They're playing with a little more swing to them than they were on the previous two albums.
That's right.
Obviously, so if I get into the weeds here, the Attractions, the first album that they're on, this year's model, they're playing with that kind of high-powered aggression. It's
Yeah.
very, very straight eighth notes.
With
very
Huey Lewis's News on the first album, right?
Yeah, right. You have members of mostly of Huey Lewis's band on the first album, and then he puts together the Attractions, and that's who we hear on this year's model. And that's a very aggressive style of tempo, and then Armed Forces, they're starting to kind of get their own sound together, and they're influenced by a lot of Bowie and ABBA at that time. But then they throw that playbook out the window and make Get Happy, and decide that they're just going to pretend that they're making an old Motown record, which is great. And of course, Costello's the least accomplished musician on his instrument in that band, but of course, he's a great songwriter and singer, so that's his primary thing. But when he needs to imitate a Booker T or Al Green thing, he knew. He could put that together. He can make that go.
I saw John Fogerty play the Kodak many years ago. He had 4 guitar players.
Yeah.
And he was the only guy that played the solos.
Right.
We both love Springsteen. He's got 4 guitar players.
Yeah.
Right? He's got his wife. I guess you can't kick her out of the band.
Yeah, she's strumming.
But you got little Steven.
And he still has Nils.
And you still got Nils. And then Bruce is
and
a
then
very
Nils
good guitar player.
Yeah.
How come Elvis Costello just doesn't get a real lead guitar player like you?
Well, don't forget you know what, Elvis? I'm open, buddy. I'm good usually Sunday nights through Wednesday nights.
Is it just ego? Does he? Because we know he doesn't get along with everybody.
Oh, you mean that's why he doesn't have another guitar player?
Would it have killed him to have a guitar player?
My theory is that set his overall sound apart.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the typical dynamic. And growing up as a kid, a latchkey kid in Yuma, Arizona, and watching MTV videos at the time, because it was just starting in the early 80s, there was Tom Petty and Mike Campbell, the guitar player.
That's right.
There was the singer-songwriter and then the lead guitar player. And Bryan Adams, there's the guitar player. Hugh Lewis, there's a guitar player. There's always a lead guitar player in every rock band, except for this one.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a way. It's like, well, if we do that, then our songs will have that guitar solo thing, just like everyone else's. So I think he was always trying to dodge what everyone else was doing, and that kind of forced them to not be typical.
He also had the secret weapon of Steve Naive.
That's right.
I don't think any rock and roll keyboard player,
he's unique,
has so many flurries going on in the background, and then when it's time for the solo, he hands it over to Steve for the solo.
Yeah, there's no real. Trust me, as a guy, as a kid who would sit on the edge of his bed and play guitar along with Costello records, there's nowhere to jam some lead guitar noodling.
Never.
It's really dense stuff.
Yeah.
So which
is also interesting.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so why does Springsteen have so many guitar players? Because I'm sorry, but growing up doesn't even need one. Really,
I think
it's a piano song. He's got two
right.
piano players, excellent piano players, but a lot of his songs, "My Hometown," "I'm on Fire," you don't even need one. Why is he carrying so much weight? And then he brings in Tom Morello.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the question here is that he has both Steven and Nils at the same time.
Right.
So, and I think that's a matter of, I think he just kind of, I don't want to make a Sophie's choice here. I put the band back together.
Yeah.
Steven's now available.
Yeah.
But so is Nils. And it was just sort of like, just put them both on the bus. It's fine.
Again,
we'll figure it out.
I'm going to go deeper with you now.
Plus, Nils can play lap steel and accordion.
Great singer.
A great singer. So I think he can just spread things out quite a bit. But I think it's not about how to deliver the music in any specific way. I think now a Springsteen concert, it's like this big family reunion.
Yeah.
And they're 2 men down now. They've lost 2 of the E Street Band members. So now it's sort of like, while we can have absolutely everybody, let's just bring absolutely everybody.
Excellent points. But also, you're a touring musician. And even though you're ridiculously talented, I've only heard one bad note from you in everything I've seen on YouTube. And I'm not kissing your ass. I was hoping for
looking
a bad
for
note.
it. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for the guy in the van who's not a fucking asshole, who you can get along with.
Now you've hit the thing. So this is a question. If you have like a national level gig like I do, you will get asked. You'll be in a small town somewhere, or maybe the opening act and the guitar player. How do you get a gig like this?
Yeah.
And me and other guys, sidemen, if you will, we talk about this a lot. Look, there's somewhat of a minimum amount of proficiency you truly need on any given instrument. You have to know enough.
Right.
It does boil down to, can I live with you for 2 weeks on a bus?
Right.
The hang is so crucial. Because like when I was referred to Dwight when he needed a guitar player by a great friend of mine, and who was already in his band, and he said, hey, Dwight wants to talk to you. I said, okay, so I go down to talk to him about it, and I mean there was a guitar there, and I picked it up, and he had an acoustic, and he would just start like some old Sun Records tune, and I'd play along, or he'd start an old Merle Haggard song, and I'd play along, and I don't think we even played, but again, we'd play an intro, a verse, and then we just stop and we talk.
Right. And
so he didn't need to hear me. He didn't need to see, well, can you play this lick and play that lick?
Yeah.
He just sort of gestured to me. He said, well, obviously you're a guitar player. Are you available to do these dates? He didn't want to be burdened with like, well, let's see your technique. It's like, well, you were referred. I know you must have technique.
Yeah.
And I think, it probably didn't hurt that. So, well, no serious addictions, homeowner, husband, father. Like I have responsibility, so I'm accountable for something.
Yeah.
So I'll probably show up. When I'm supposed to, and that is it. Are you the one that's always late for the 4 o'clock lobby call? It's sound check. How often are we asking, hey, where's so and so? Those are the demerits. It's not the clams. We know you'll fix the clams.
Let's quickly go to venues in LA. The best hall that you've played at in LA and the best that you've heard a concert at in LA.
I'll tell you what, I still love the Mint. It's a club,
Yes.
right? You know the Mint?
Yeah, there's a Bukowski mural
that's
next
right.
to it.
That's right. That's it. When I had my own band for years, and I really liked playing the Mint. I love the sound from the stage. It was there, but I saw the old 97s play there. I would see acts play there stuff, and I just thought it sounded fantastic. I love the sightlines are small, but not uncomfortably small. Yeah. I don't know. Something about the Mint really, really appealed to me. I
love that neighborhood that it's in. It's mid-city because it's unpretentious. This could be anywhere, good-sized town anywhere.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about Bakersfield later.
Okay.
You could uproot that and stick it in Bakersfield, and it would
think
fit.
so. The prices would be different, but yes.
I don't know if the music would be the same, but that club itself.
I'll tell you, man. I remember playing there one night. And this is after our daughter was born, and she was a baby, and so my wife came to the show, which was rare at that time, of course. And now we were it was probably 3 bands on the bill. And we didn't know the other bands. And I kind of remember just reminding my band members, like, look, when we're done, let's not make it look like a fire drill. And I told my wife, says, look, I know you're probably going to be exhausted, but I have to at least stay a bit, just for appearance's sake, for whomever's playing after us.
Yeah.
And so we finish and we get our stuff off the stage, and the next band takes it, and it just wasn't good at all. Like, it just was... And then it dawned on me. I leaned. I said, "I'm paying a sitter $15 an hour for this." I said, "We're out of here. This is costing me." And then I was hostile. Now that I'm a father, I was hostile to somebody going on stage and being a mess. You're stealing time from me.
The most valuable thing there is.
The one non-renewable resource we have is time. Right. And beforehand, it was like, they were terrible. But yeah, I hung. It was long enough. But now it's like, no, I've got a baby home. I'm not doing this. I'm just not doing this. It changed like that.
Okay, let's return to Elvis Costello.
Okay.
Because you play a bunch of Merle songs on this most recent tour with Dwight.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of Merle stuff.
And
almost the moment he passed away, Dwight has dedicated a chunk in the first third of his show, a chunk of his own set. He sacrifices his own material so that we can play some Merle stuff.
Which is, but I bet the audience eats it up though.
They do, because I think they do love it. I can't speak for
They're
the
not
audience.
booing.
No, not at all. No, they're really excited that we're doing that stuff. I can tell.
Okay, so you do an Elvis Costello cover of Merle Haggard's song.
In your opinion, I don't think Dwight's regarding Elvis Costello I know you're joking.
I'm joking. Because I say it that way because...
Is it Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down?
And I say it because I don't think I'm alone. I mean, I'm 55, and growing up in the Midwest, listening to heavy metal and trying to listen to punk, but they wouldn't play it on the radio.
Right.
A little new wave and 80s music. I was not aware of country music until I came out to L.A. And Elvis Costello's Almost Blue and working at the record store and Katie Lang's album...
Okay.
Got me into country.
Sure.
And when I heard you play Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down with Dwight, it was half the tempo of what it is on Almost Blue.
Right, because we're approximating Merle's original tempo.
Right.
That's where it sits. It's a slower, what's called a 2-beat kind of shuffle.
You say?
2-beat shuffle. So you hear in the bass. Of course, and Elvis Costello and the Attractions, when they did it on their their tribute to country music album in the early 80s, which they recorded in Nashville, and they got Billy Sherrill, who had produced George Jones and all those classic, they got him to produce it. They took a pause. They did ballads. They did Sweet Dreams. They do Hot Burrito #1, I'm Your Toy. But some of the others, like Why Don't You Love Me Like You Used to Do, is like just really manic and fast. And so they took that kind of take on Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down. A real kind of revved up, should we say, version of it. We're doing Merle's original feel for that thing, and I love playing in that pocket on that stuff. But in terms of Elvis Costello in the country, I think it's a lot of rockers slowly got turned on to country music via that album. I just did an interview recently about Buck Owens, and two of the guys in the interview were more power pop guys, and they said that they discovered Buck Owens via the Almost Blue. Even though I don't think he does any Buck Owens material, I think it's just like, oh, this is country. Now in the early '80s in LA at that time, you had a movement called cowpunk.
Yeah.
And of course, that was, in short, it was like a lot of guys a lot of men and women that had been in punk bands up until then. They kind of just burnt that thing out, right? There's just so what else can we do? Well, again,
so like the Blasters and the Knitters,
Knitters, Rank and File,
right.
Jason and the Scorchers, who were coming out of the East Coast, were kind of also part of that. And Dwight at the time was put into this category, but Dwight wasn't an original punker at all. He was actually coming from a pure hillbilly, he's come from a pure Kentucky, Ohio range thing, and had been transplanted here in LA. But for these other bands, it's still three basic chords, songs that are expressing a very specific viewpoint. One of the great things about country music is that it's a narrative form. The blues kind of rides on platitudes, and I don't mean to degrade it. The blues actually hugs tropes and woke up this morning and blah 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 blah. Repeat. Woke up this morning, blah 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 blah. When you woke up this morning, and then that last line is usually the joke or the kicker happens there. There's this form, right? And with country music, I think the idea is as it's been said, it's like somebody sitting on their porch and they're telling you, knee to knee, something that happened to them either that day or something that happened to their grandfather as they've heard about it years and years and years ago. It's storytelling. It's very direct storytelling. Mm-hmm. So some of our more successful rock songwriters, Springsteen, Fogerty, it's those storytellers. When they go into that mode, that's when we really feel like, wow, that's a really successfully written song. It's usually if they're hugging the country roots, if you will. And I think Costello had, up until then, had been just kind of point of view, revenge, guilt, as he said, and a lot of just wordplay. Get happy. One of the things that appealed to me about that record, I now understand a little more about myself. My brain does certain things with words. I've just discovered this past few years, I hear multiple meanings immediately. So it always seems as though I'm making a pun as a reaction to things, but I'm hearing several meanings all at once. And I'm always doing crossword puzzles because the clues make sense to me. I always see the double meaning anyway. So then there's Elvis Costello.
Kurt Cobain was great with those double meanings and those puns.
Well, and he was a student of pop songwriting. Kurt Cobain was. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Costello has the same thing that my brain does. I'm not saying that. I think they just realize that really successful songwriting will do that with words. Elvis Costello has a song "Girls Talk," which he writes around that Get Happy era, and he twists the meaning of that. I've got a loaded imagination, and it's powered fired by girls talk. But then so it's the talk that girls do, and then later on he makes it a predicate, not the subject, and that all makes sense to me.
Yeah. You were talking about High Fidelity in the same way.
That is the entire song. He's just punning all the way through. He takes the word fidelity, Latin, true, faithfulness, and then also but it's become in terms of sound.
Yeah.
And so he's constantly doing this double meaning thing throughout that. It's breathtaking. And he opens up with a Supremes reference. Some things you'll never get used to. And he's bouncing through keys, which was really intriguing to me. Says, "Oh, are we in G major? Yeah, we are." There's a B minor. Then he goes up to D minor. What happened? E major. That doesn't fit. A minor to D minor. Where are we? And then,
which by the way,
somehow the chorus. We're in A major. What happened? There's more changes than a dressing room.
That is the answer to me saying, "Isn't he a terrible guitar player?" No, idiot. He's the greatest guitar player. Because other than Bob Dylan, who else is putting that much time and effort into chords on a pop song that is being sold to teenagers than a young Elvis Costello?
I love in Man Out of Time. To murder my love is a crime. Then this chromatic, but will you still love the man out of time? That climb kills me. That's why I love Squeeze. They do the same thing, like in Another Nail in My Heart, and they just, the way they were working these chords was so intriguing to me. I was so curious about it, and so if you know, in the songs that I write, quite a few of those songs tend to have that sort of movement in there, which to me is all relates to the Beatles.
Irregular heartbeat, it wants what it can't have. Be careful if we meet, it's all good till it goes bad. And I know if it slows, it has passed the test. But this thing beneath my chest, irregular heartbeat.
You know, when I moved to LA in the 90s, and I lived in Silver Lake. The first time I ever ventured into Eagle Rock was a few months because there was a movie theater in the mall at the time. Yeah. And Tuesday nights were like the budget night. And I saw Donnie Brasco there. I can think of all the movies I saw there. And at the time I thought, like, is this the only thing going on in this mall? It seemed rather desolate, you know. And now it is my gym's there. It's kind of hopping.
They're going to tear it down.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
It happens. We you know what? I don't resent changes like this. I'm not one of those.
Right.
I'm sure you're going to talk about gentrification a lot.
I don't want to, though.
No, not with me. Just in
to anybody. I don't want to.
But I moved Silver Lake in '96. By about 99, 2000, I'm in Mount Washington, and then we bought the house in August of 2001 in Eagle Rock. Oh, nice. So over 20 years. And I'll tell you, you know, those first several years, it was tough to sleep at night because there's helicopters overhead.
Right.
And now they're not. So you're going to have to explain to me how that's not good.
Right.
So, you know, and again, gentrification is usually somebody saying everything was better when I arrived. They don't talk about what it was like, before your ass got here. Yeah. So all the street names in East LA are very New York based because guess who was there before the Latinos? That's right. So, and I have an uncle, a retired uncle. He lives in Glendale, and he cracks me up because he's so angry about the demographic change in Glendale. And I'm just thinking, well, how do you think John Wayne's family felt when your ass moved here in 1960? You know, we don't see ourselves as the change, or we don't remember, or maybe we get territorial. Like, look, I went through this crap, and now I don't want anyone else ever moving here that doesn't look like me. It's a very funny thing. I'm actually controversy. You want some controversy on the show?
If you must.
It's not controversy. But I'm starting to really question the word indigenous, and I am.
Are you?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I did a 23andMe, and
they said Eagle Rock.
Well, no, it's a 67% know-it-all, which I thought was very hurtful. I resented that. But no, I'm definitely Native American. And
really?
Yeah. See, no one can guess what I am when they look at me, by the way.
Same.
It's tough. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Good point.
But I think I think people feel like they know more about your look, but you're absolutely right. Oh, no. I could see total Native American here.
In Eagle Rocks, it's like the mall. I remember being at the Seafood King market that Joe mentioned, which I love that store. And this older lady comes up and she's speaking to me kind of excitedly. She's speaking Tagalog, which I don't understand, and I don't know what's going on. And her daughter or granddaughter, younger, comes up and kind of looking at me, and she goes, oh, and no, and she says something to the old lady, and apparently I was being mistaken for like a soap opera star back in the Philippines.
Nice.
So, well, I don't know if that's not, but I just didn't know. I was just lost, and she really thought I was from the Philippines, I guess. So
Nice.
I can be anything, I suppose.
So, but Native American heritage. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Well, it is. It's lovely, but I guess my question with this word indigenous, that seems like more of a timeline thing, not a bloodline thing.
Yeah.
And
it's a
how
timeline-
far back are we supposed to go?
And it's a timeline based on white people.
Of course. Well, they wrote Guns, Germs, and Steels. We've read all the great books about this stuff. I'm just saying this is all. It's all very fluid, and we assume like, well, I'm here now, so nothing's allowed to be fluid about this.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really work that way.
Right.
And Los Angeles is no different. Neighborhoods, cities, they have to be organic things.
Why did you choose Eagle Rock in 2001?
That's a really good question.
You were married.
We were, freshly married.
Were you making good money?
I wasn't. No, God, no.
Was your wife making good money?
She's doing well. Yeah.
So you consider yourselves middle class at that point?
We were. We were holding. Again, I was an independent musician. I'm playing clubs. I was trying to get my career going. No one's paying you for that. I was working temp jobs during the day, doing club.
So you were
visits.
struggling.
Struggling, absolutely. But she had been saving long before we met. She had been saving and working towards owning property somehow.
Wow.
Yeah, she was very, very, and she dragged me kicking and screaming into adulthood, frankly. And I
God bless women.
Yes. Oh my! Married men live longer.
Yeah. What's her background?
Well,
Is she Native American as well?
No.
Like where'd she grow up?
All of Michigan and then Idaho, and so kind of her father was a salesman, so they kind of moved around quite a bit. So, but a Midwestern gal,
Which maybe psychologically she's like, I don't want that for my kids. Let's get a house and settle down.
Yeah, established roots. And of course, at the time, I think it was we used a real estate agent named Tracy King. You probably see her signs all over Eagle Rock, and she showed this place to us. Small, but we could make it work. It was affordable. It was going to take some work. It was a great spot, and a little 2-bedroom thing that we thought, well, at least we're in the market. We'll have some equity, and when it comes time for us to start having kids, we'll get something larger. We have our daughter is born in 2007, and then essentially, by then the market's already nuts. The following September, the recession. And we just kind of realized, I don't think we're going anywhere for a moment here. And we didn't have any more children. The three of us, it's plenty of house for us three. Mm-hmm. I don't think people when we talk about real estate in Los Angeles, and if you don't live in LA, maybe some of the other cities go through this, but you know how schools really, really push and control the housing market in a massive way. So we were, they were highly rated schools there in Eagle Rock.
Even when the helicopters were buzzing through.
Yes. Well, because the change was happening. But I remember this. I remember we closed on mid-August of 2001. And I remember it was like the first weekend we actually got to spend in the house. And we woke up the Sunday Times that morning, and the Sunday Times magazine, the LA Times magazine, the cover story, it was the woman who opened and owned Swark, and it said Eagle Rock, the next big neighborhood in LA. And I was like, we won, we should sell now. It's not gonna get better, goddammit. And so we saw the change happen, and I include Highland Park in our lives. What it's Eagle Rock, Highland Park, and Glassell are all kind of one thing to me. Mm-hmm. To me, but I love my band. When I had my band, our first gig was at the Women's 20th Century Club on Colorado Boulevard, because it was the Eagle Rock Music Festival, which is a lot different now, which is fine.
Yep.
But it was just every business there had a band in it somehow. And then after that, there was a bar called Toppers, which is probably now the Chalet, I think. But it was just a ragged little bar, very working class bar. And they didn't have a stage or anything, but I said, hey, can you just let us set up in the corner? And we won't charge a cover. I just want to play at a place where people could easily just walk in and find us. Yeah. So a lot of firsts happened in Eagle Rock, of course, for me.
You taught me something about why the Telecaster is the go-to country guitar, and you were talking about picking at the very bottom of what do you call that thing down there?
This is the bridge.
The bridge.
Right here. Of course, no one can see this, but this is where the strings attach to the body of the guitar near your strum hand. And the Fender Telecaster is just kind of the way it was set up and designed. And there's a pickup, which is basically a magnet that picks up the vibration of the strings and sends that vibration in through a cord and into the amp that's over there. And you're able to pick right here at the back by the bridge, and you get a really bright, kind of thin sound that's called twang. That's kind of the classic country twang. You can snap it. As where now if I go to a different pickup closer to the neck, it's going to become deeper and smoother, more jazzy. Playing that same stuff on the pickup.
Now here's what's crazy.
Sorry.
I have watched guitar players my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
You were the first person to teach me this. I guess when you watch people play,
We take it for granted that you just play.
or I assume there's pedals being happening here. There's no pedals here, by the way.
No.
Kids at home. And he's just playing, and the only thing that you're adjusting on the guitar is the little switch there.
Pickup selector.
So when it's pushed back, it's saying pick up the one,
The bridge pickup
Near
in
the
back
bottom.
here, the bright one.
and then when you push it the other way,
All the way to the front is this pickup here by the neck, which is originally, I think Leo thought of this as being actually to play bass lines because of that deeper sound. And the original Telecasters, it's a real muffled, kind of woolly, weird sound that a lot of people don't have any use for it anymore. So they've modified it, or people just put a different pickup altogether there. But yeah, it was like your rhythm pickup. It was a deeper sound. Again, early 1950s, big band, jazz. If you were going to invest in an electric guitar, if you were a professional guitar player, you're most likely going to be playing jazz or the American Songbook sort of stuff. So changing it. And you hear those sorts of chords and that sort of movement. Or little lead lines would be very much like Charlie Christian and Les Paul and these players who were imitating horn players for the most part. That sort of movement. What happens is, though, when country, Bakersfield in particular, is really more rooted in the blues, actually. And and you're playing in really rowdy, loud bars, and that tone is not going to cut it. Just you're not going to be heard. So the gear starts to, the way, and Leo, I know guys who knew Leo before he passed, and they said he was not a guitar player. He was a radio repair guy.
Really?
Yeah. So now, of course, he was older when my friends would go visit him, but if he did have a guitar and he was playing it to test it out, your ears would bleed. And if you notice, Fender gear is usually very bright and treble. It's very high. Now, this appealed to guys like Buck, and it's kind of chicken and the egg, although I don't believe in that in that.
You're an atheist on that too.
Right. Evolutionary biologists would never fall for that, but it is, nature nurture, I guess, is the other way of putting it. Because does country music sound the way it does because of the gear, or did they make the gear to sound like that because of what country musicians needed? Mm-hmm. And Leo was listening to Southern California guitar players. So they had certain needs, and I think he was probably responding to that. And he probably would have designed a lot of, if he had been based in New York or Philly or Nashville at that time, he's going to make Chicago. He's going to make stuff that served the Chicago blues scene, so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fender, by the way, manufactured where?
Well, they have several plants across the world. So they're California. The home base is out in Corona, but they have a plant in Ensenada. It makes great guitars. Those are the made in Mexico models. Uh-huh. And then they have, of course, they get outsourced to Indonesia and China as well for the budget stuff.
You started playing guitar at 8 years old.
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah.
Your daughter is 14?
She's 14.
Did you hand her a guitar at 8 years old?
She's not interested in guitar.
Whatever daddy's into, I'm not into.
So she plays piano. She picked up the ukulele. She's playing banjo a lot.
Because it's easier, right? For a kid.
Yeah.
Do they have kid-size Fenders nowadays?
Absolutely. There's student models, which is like, kind of 3/4 size stuff in acoustic and electric.
Yeah.
But Fender, starting in the 60s, he started to make the Mustang guitar, which most people associate maybe with like Kurt Cobain or Liz Phair, Chicago girl. Because slightly smaller scale, easier to play. They even made Mustang basses, which is kind of an easier bass to play.
Okay, let's talk about guitar solos in country music.
You mentioned something about this when we were setting up. What's the question?
The question is, where are they? You get 2 bars, I feel like. Most country lead guitar players.
Are you talking about modern country or just in general?
Modern country. Well, how modern is modern country?
I'll say post.
When you are on the stage with Dwight, you get...
Tons.
You do get tons.
Oh, but they're not long.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yes.
And by the way, Dwight seems very generous about that.
He's just
he plays his acoustic, he sings his song, all the girls swoon, and then he steps back at the right time. You get some love, and then the steel guitar player gets some love. And that to me is so beautiful. You're a real band.
Oh, yeah.
You're a full ensemble. You're also talented musicians, but you don't get to play behind your back. You don't get to play with your teeth. You don't set that thing on fire.
I don't have to, Tony. Now, I don't know who you're referring to, but God bless those folks that had to just like go through all that. No, so that is a tradition in country music. You're right. There's we don't really go these long, unstructured, long jam session sort of stuff.
Right. Which is why we love Southern rock.
I was going to say that actually...
Allman Brothers, 38 Special, all those people.
Just crossed my mind that actually that is... It's it's a shame. Obviously, it's a shame that Dwayne Allman passed away when he did so young. Because I was... It's one of the sliding doors thing in rock and roll where had he not passed away, where the Allman Brothers were going right at about that time, those extended solos...
Yeah.
We're moving into... I wonder what influence... That may have... I like to think that would have created more of a jazz rock fusion with some swing and blues and country to it. But since the Allman Brothers didn't get to extend that thought, the jazz rock fusion thing became a little more mathematical.
Right.
It got a little brainy. And but anyway, so in country music, the role of the instrument solo, it really is just to give pause. Now, here's old history here. Up until about 1927, when they had the historic Bristol sessions, which people can look that up. But what happened was a couple of guys put out an ad. I think how was $25 a song or $50 a song? Good coin for 1927. They wanted people from all of Appalachia and all these rural areas to come to Bristol, Tennessee, and they had overtaken, I think it was a hat factory, if I'm not mistaken. They set up this recording machine, and they just wanted to get the sounds of America way out there, sounds that had not been heard by anybody else, right? So the Carter family and Jimmy Rogers are the big finds out of this.
They were under-discovered before this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, but a lot of people are coming. Let's say you're coming out of the coal mine, the coal country of Virginia or West Virginia. And if you played an instrument, sang a song, you're the only entertainment in the area. So you would sing these long ballads, mostly based on Scots-Irish stuff. These, 15, 20 verses telling a very long, detailed story about something. No one's got anywhere to go. Mm-hmm. Go as long as you need to. You're the only thing we got. Entertain us, man. So then a lot of these folks show up at these Bristol sessions to be recorded. Now, of course, the gear they're using, cutting direct to a disc. And so it's like, you're going to have to shorten this. I mean, shorten it. Well, the needle runs out after about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. So this is where we get that 3-verse song form. The technology demanded it.
Nice.
Technology puts demands on. No one complains about that now,
except me.
Well, oh God, yes, you and Neil Young. So now the point is, now country music starts with this. Well, we have to condense it. Get to the point. The storytelling gets to the point. So there's this really efficient. That Merle Haggard. When you talk about songwriting efficiency, he is so economical. Like I don't know if anybody got the country songwriting format. I don't know if anyone ever got the efficiency down as well as Merle Haggard did.
Who writes a better first line than Merle Haggard?
All of this is thought out. You got to get their attention. Again, if I'm going to tell you a story, look, I said this the other day. The opening line to your story has got to be great. No great story starts with, I was eating a salad once.
You're making me cough. What's the first line for Okie and Muskogee?
We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. Yeah. Just to throw marijuana in the first.
Then? That's going to catch my ear.
How about this for a great line? You think you're going to take her away with your money and your cocaine. Now it's like, okay, this isn't, okay, ooh, boy, that's a challenge. What's going on? You know, you're going to lean in for something like that. So, again, another songwriter who knew how to borrow from the country tradition in the right way was Tom Petty.
Is it easier or is it harder for a lead guitar player on a country band to only have a short guitar solo?
Solos aren't the be all and end all to me at all. I don't really think of it that way. So again, country music it's really, the focus is the song. It's a song-based format. Jazz is not. So
you're saying
classical music is not.
That playing country's easy and you can do it in your sleep?
I'm not doing this.
And the 14-year-old could get on stage and
journalist
replace
trick.
you?
I'm not doing this.
Is this why Taylor Swift is so popular?
No,
even a pretty girl could do it?
Taylor wrote incredibly relatable songs, catchy songs that completely detailed. She just nailed that songwriting form. So in country music, the idea is I'm just relief from the sound of the voice in the story, and we need to get back to the story. So I'm a bit of a commercial break, but not a long one. And hopefully, I'm just going to highlight what was already being said or how it was being said. Some of my favorite country solos are really just a reinstatement of the melody, or Mama Tried. Roy Nichols plays that electric guitar figure at the very top of the song. He's out. He doesn't play again until the solo. And how's the solo start? He's out. And we don't hear him again till the very end of the song.
Well, you're right when the crowd is around you. The trouble starts when your loneliness surrounds you. It's like a week of Sundays.
Okay, I have a question from a listener. What are the 3 pedals that you need to go on stage on a country show? Are there any?
That's a great question. Okay, so I don't even use a lot of pedals on the Dwight gig, really. In fact, the pedal board is over back by the amps because I don't really actively switch them in the middle of a song. I'm a big fan of slapback delay, which is a delay pedal. It's just a single slap. And especially because I played rockabilly for so long, so it was natural to do so. So I don't have one here, but it would, instead of, if I hit the strings once, you hear this. If I have a slapback delay pedal, you'd hear. You hear 2 of them. And so I'm running that. A tremolo is good, which I do have on this amp, but that essentially just cuts the volume in and out. So you get this.
And what's the purpose of that?
It's a different... the proper answer is texture. So it gives it just a different texture. Without turning it on here, it's hard. I'm emulating this by actually turning the volume knob on the guitar up and down. But
so a little bit of dynamics.
Of Silver Wings by Merle Haggard uses tremolo on the guitar on the 20. So you get, and it actually draws your ear towards the sound of that instrument. But if you're doing the mix, you don't have to turn the guitar up in the mix to get the ear's attention. So if you can do something like a little delay, reverb, tremolo, there's a little effect you can put on something to help it jump out a bit, but you're not actually bringing it up because you don't want it to interfere with the vocal, which is the number one priority in country music. Don't step on or bury the vocal.
Yeah.
Because that's where the story is going to be told.
I've got...
slapback delay, tremolo, and a tuner.
Which
God
in between
damn, I get it
in
too.
between songs, you're constantly looking at that.
I am. Yeah, or actually, and I have a tech who's
Right.
on top of me the whole time. And actually, we have a thing where after every maybe third or fourth song, just hand me a new guitar.
Because when you bend the strings,
I'm just going to assume that I'm going to start going south here, and I don't have time to fix this myself. So we have and I have a lot of hand signals with them.
Oh.
To which guitar I need next, or what's coming up, or if I just feel, and sometimes he's listening, and he might hear something going a little funky before I do, and so I'll just feel him coming over my left shoulder and thinking, "Oh, Tommy's coming. Get out of this guitar. He knows something I don't." Or God forbid, Dwight notices before any of us. But that happened because he has perfect pitch, and so much of the sound is directed towards Dwight.
Right.
So he's hearing the cumulative all at once.
Yeah.
As where I'm really just hearing mostly stage left.
Yeah.
So Dwight may notice Dwight may like something at stage left is a little bit out, and then it's like, "We're on it, boss. We got this." And to me, I'm not going to take a moment to try and tune it. Just give me a fresh one.
By the way, these are things the audience does not notice.
Hopefully not. It's not their responsibility.
We're drinking beers. We're trying to talk to the pretty girl.
That's right. I don't want it to be like, wow, that guitar player looks like he's landing planes over there. What's going on? I don't want to interrupt. Dwight's got a story to tell over 2 hours. He has a relationship with this audience. Yep. It's a long relationship, and I'll be damned if I interrupt it somehow.
Right. You're there to laugh and look handsome.
Well, yeah. Well, we're still working on that. We're getting a crew together just for that. They're going to put scaffolding around me.
I was in college. I was in junior college, pumping gas at the corner of Beverly Glen and Santa Monica Boulevard, right next to Century City, and
full service gas station.
All full serve.
Right.
All the pumps.
We have to make
until
note
I think around 11 p.m. We're all
Okay.
full service, and then I think they switched over, and there was a bunch of us there, and they looked at me and they're like, "You're in college. Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "I just sold a lot of stereos at Federated Group, a really high pressure electronic store. And I kind of felt guilty that it was all commission and I was making the most money from the most ignorant people
interesting.
who were poor. Whereas the high rolling lawyers would come in and demand like the lowest price and talk to the manager and get the great TV for almost nothing. And I was like, I kind of want to break from this. And so I started pumping gas at this gas station. And what was awesome about this gas station was it was very close to Sony Records. Back then, Sony was in Century City. But you would also get all these other famous people who were going to see their lawyers in Century City, and they would tip us when we pumped their gas and checked their oil and their tires. And one lady said, "Oh, I don't have any money, but in my trunk I've got all these cassettes. Do you like music?" And I said, "I freaking love music. For my naps, I'm putting Get Happy in my Sony Walkman, and I take a little nap in my car during my lunch break." And she's like, "Then you know that Elvis is on Columbia." I was like, "Yes." She's like, "Here's somebody who you probably haven't heard." And she handed me the cassette of Guitars and Cadillacs. And I was blown away because at the record store that I'd worked at previously, they had taught me about Hank Sr. and Johnny Cash, and it was great. But there was also this bias towards what was called then young country, which was more pop, and there was maybe even a synthesizer or something. Like it was not. Obviously, we're not even talking about it today, so obviously it was not a high point in country music.
Yeah, it may come. The guitar players were using a lot of stereo chorus on their guitars, and country. It was innovating. They were going for new styles, coming out of the urban cowboy movement.
That's right.
But now the urban cowboy movement was just naturally dying off a little bit, and I don't think that the country labels knew exactly what to do. So you got these really innovative signings: Dwight, Katie Lang, Steve Earle.
Well, the one that
I love it. Like certain artists that probably would have normally gotten a major label deal got one in that time because it wasn't until Garth and like the country, like, oh, we can do arena rock level dynamics with a cowboy hat. That changes the metric. And we're still kind of really in that stage now, believe it or not. But up until then, I think they had a nice freedom as to what they can sign. They could take a shot at something.
It was a hit right off the bat.
Yeah.
The next record was a hit.
Yeah, he comes
He's this
out.
handsome guy with this cowboy hat that's different than your grandpa's music.
Can I say something?
Please.
This is something for which Dwight does not get credit, if I may. That at that time, young male sexuality was just not associated with country music. No offense, but it was Kenny Rogers and Mickey Gilley and Willie Nelson. And I'm telling you, man, I like country music was older people's music in my brain.
Charlie
in the 80s.
Daniels.
Yes. And just masterful singers, all that. I'm just talking about in terms of sheer presentation. Yeah. Probably not a coincidence that Dwight was the only country artist played on MTV, the Little Sister video.
Right.
And by the way, Little Sister, an Elvis song. Oh yeah, when's the last time we had a young, sexy, viscerally, just a vibrant male thing? And it was like, I guess Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley. We have to go back that far. Otherwise, it's all due respect. It's Porter Wagner in the suit, and it's a different thing, And so I think that that had a lot to do with his crossover appeal.
Yeah,
and it kind of gave it a real, just definitely a different type of energy than what country had been up until that point, at least for the past decade or so.
Live, Dwight gives you lots of room to solo on that one.
On Little Sister?
Yeah. I feel like you get more time on that one.
I don't know. I think we're doing the record arrangement. He had, Pete Anderson. I got to say, when I first moved to L.A., Pete, who had been a guitar hero of mine, and when those Dwight records came out, I got them immediately and I learned the guitar parts.
Yeah.
And a huge part of my country music education was drawn to Pete and what he was playing on those records. And then I'm lucky to say and grateful to say that Pete caught wind of me as a songwriter, I guess, really a few years after I moved here. And Pete had me over. He produced a song of mine. He's kind of, he did, he didn't have to do that. And it was really sweet. And then it was a funny thing that many years later that Dwight would call. And I remember Dwight saying, like, well, are you kind of, I had a few weeks before the first gig and everything. He says, so we'll set you up with whatever you need. He said, but are you familiar with any of my material?
What?
Well, no, I mean, he doesn't know everything.
He's hiring a lead guitar player, and he's not sure if he's just a humble guy like that.
I think there was definitely humility there for sure. And I said, is everything in the original key? And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. Then I feel pretty comfortable.
This kind of blows my mind.
I have to go through the set list because there were going to be some deep album cuts that maybe I didn't know and I had to refamiliar. And by the way, over the years playing songs like Guitars Cadillacs or his version of Little Sister in the clubs, or whatever, you start to drift away from what's really on the record.
Yes.
This is what happens.
And that's okay with Dwight.
No, I wouldn't say that. I just realized that even a song that I thought I knew really well because I'd been playing it for years and years and years in the clubs, when I go back and listen to the original record, I'm like, oh my God, I pretty much got pretty far off the road here. And so I had to correct. I'm still correcting. I still check records again because even now that I'm cognizant, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Every now it's like, okay, make sure, go back and listen to the solo to blah, blah, blah. Because over time, over months or so, you start to just kind of move things around a little bit.
So you want to be...
I'd like to be as close to the record as possible.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Because you assume that that's what the audience is expecting?
Yes.
And they want that.
And those parts are really important. I'm a fan.
The lady and I, we dine and talk from a humble hill in Eagle Rock, and they want me to hate my good old days. They want me to hate my good old days. They want me to hate my good all they want.
Springsteen River Tour?
There's my first concert.
In Chicago, they had a great rock station, and sometimes they just said, everybody forget it. Springsteen just came out with a new record. We're going to play the whole thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I had heard the buzz of Springsteen, and I had heard Born to Run, and I was also very young. I heard Point Blank on the radio in the middle of the night in my bed, and I mean, compared to the regular music that was being played,
yeah, really dark.
Be it rock and roll, Led Zeppelin, or even disco at that time, this shook me. I was like, and the silence of those songs.
All the space.
Yeah. So to your point about Billie Eilish, like the dynamics of that album, that's what got me. Did you feel the same way in concert at 8 years old?
Well, the entire thing was overwhelming. Again, I just remember kind of when the light, there's no opener, right? Springsteen does,
Who could?
It's just this, it's the activity. It's just like, tens of thousands of people. And there's this din. And I'm just, I've never seen an accumulation. I don't know if we have tens of thousands of people in the population of my hometown. and the adults, I'm with my parents, they're very excited, and then all the lights just drop. And that's scary. And then just this roar of just this, and that, I think that probably put my fear senses on high alert, like shit, something's going down. But he comes out, first song is Born to Run, and he does it, there's such an exuberance.
He started with Born to Run on that tour?
Yeah. And so that's the first song I heard live.
Badass.
And he comes out, and there's such an obvious exuberance from this little man in the spotlight.
Yes.
And again, back to that fear of public speaking. He's like, there's no fear in this guy.
No.
He looks more than comfortable. Actually, it looks like there's nowhere else he'd rather be on a Wednesday night. That did something. If there's a vampire bite in this narrative, that had to have been it. And then thank goodness that the album that came out this was in November of 1980. So the River album comes out, and that's the one I'm mostly going to listen to. He did 18 of the 20 songs from the album. So I'm and also, just right, it was dynamic. This is for the rock nerds out there. This is the first album that he did that actually got close to getting the dynamics of that live thing. That was something that was a challenge they were having.
Yeah.
So they record at the power station. They figure out how to get this band to play live and get this quiet, loud, raucous, funny. All those different shades happen across the span of this album. So I listened to it because it was my one way of kind of replaying the show. Right? I mean, that's just what you did. I didn't have footage of it. I didn't have anything at the time, and I kept trying to recreate that night. And who knows, after all various traumas of my childhood, it's probably why I do what I do now. I'm trying to recreate that night.
That's beautiful. Is there anything that you would like to say about Eagle Rock as we let you go?
My daughter's 14. That's her neighborhood, Eagle Rock. She's an Eagle Rock girl, and she was just saying recently, just like, I love that it's all mom and pops here.
Yes.
Now we can go to Pasadena and Glendale for the big box stuff, and those are all, they have their conveniences. She's a book nut, so she realizes you got to go to Glendale or Pasadena, go to Barnes and Nobles or Vroman's, but there's a little used bookstore on Eagle Rock Boulevard, and she loves to just pop in there and go through that sort of stuff, and all the little coffee shops and all the little weird barbecue places that you never step in, they come and go, and she kind of likes that. I think that there's a slight Joe Armstrong mentioned an unpretentiousness, and that's kind of nice. I think that I think it always has been a working class neighborhood. Now some of the prices above on Hill Drive and stuff would try to push against that, but I know a lot of musicians that have done very well for themselves, and they make their lives in Eagle Rock because sure, they go on the road, but your family would like to have just sort of like a really as normal an existence as possible. I like to be able to walk to a certain place and have this small community feel. Eagle Rock gives that, but you're going to find this out about all the neighborhoods of LA. Also, when I travel, I should mention that I've noticed this because I pop out into all parts of America and the world, and I pop back into LA. I go back and forth. And first of all, I remember in the 90s, the first time I went to Europe. We were mostly in Germany and Switzerland and went through Holland or so, and then we were out there for like a month or so, and then I got back to Silver Lake where I was living at the time, and I woke up the next morning and probably walked around the corner to Millie's to get something to eat. And it just, the sheer diversity, racial, hipsters, old Latinos, just all this stuff, it just jarred me because frankly, I'd been in Germany at the time, and it's more diverse now. Europe's so much more diverse now. But in the 90s, it was, wow, this is pretty monocultural. And it really made me proud to be an American, and that made me really proud to live in Los Angeles at that time. Now I've lived in LA longer than I've lived anywhere. And I'm not leaving. As I travel, when people find out you're from LA, a lot of people have no problem just criticizing it. And I tell my daughter this all the time. You're from Los Angeles. You're going to travel the world. don't take shit from people about being in LA. We make all the stuff that keeps them entertained all day long, and then they shit on it. You know, I'm just not going for it. I'm just not going for it. Yeah, are we perfect? No place is perfect.
Right.
And we're not saying we're better than you either, but we're not all here by accident.
Also, it's so huge, this place.
How could it possibly just be one thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Don't put us in
That term, the town, that referring to Hollywood, that represents one of the industries here. But not everybody here is in show business, man. Not everybody here is. That's just not true. So, and of course, especially decades ago, there were a lot of aerospace, and I guess maybe the world knew that other things happen here. Now they just think it's just TV and movies and stuff. But there's a lot going on here, and I never thought I would raise a child in LA when I was much younger.
Because of the
being a dad was just it'll happen somehow, but I didn't think about raising a kid in a big city, and now I can't imagine doing it anywhere else. I think I told you, she was over pupusas by the time she was 4. You know what I mean? Like she had sashimi before preschool. I hadn't had it until my 20s or something like that. Like she's just she knows so much, man.
Well, let me ask you this about raising kids in LA.
Sure.
Especially Eagle Rock.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Eagle Rock seems like one of the safest places there are. And yet I've got a friend who lives north of Colorado who says, yeah, it's fine on my block, but do I want my child to ride her bike on Colorado at a young age? Probably not, which is ironic because we grew up riding our bikes in places that weren't that different than Eagle Rock.
Yeah, there's a lot of literature and thought about this. It's not a neighborhood thing. I think there's a certain demographic of us as parents that we do. Even those of us who don't think we're helicopter parents, even that's a relative term.
Yeah.
It's relative to to parents before child labor laws. Yeah, I guess we're kind of helicopter parents compared to.
Well, okay, so Yuma, where you grew up, what was the name of your mascot in high school?
So I went to Yuma Union High School, and our mascot is the Criminal. We're the Yuma High Criminals because the original schoolhouse was the since at that time abandoned territorial prison. That was the original schoolroom, and then they got a proper school. But then when the second school opened, they teased the older school, being, you guys are criminals because you used to go to the. And so now every now and then there'll be a news story or a news crew will come down to my hometown, and so you're not going to believe this mascot. But I didn't think anything of it. Our school newspaper is the Ball and Chain. I swear. And
what does the mascot look like at basketball games?
Well, it used to. Okay, it's a softer version of what we call the Crim Head. It's just. But when I grew up, it was this hardened-looking face guy. He looked just like Don Coryell, who was the head coach of the San Diego Chargers in the late 70s and early 80s. Eric Coryell. Thank God bless you. God bless you for knowing that. So, yeah, I remember thinking, like, it looks just like Eric Coryell, but it was just kind of this hardened criminal-looking face and an outline. And then somewhere right after I graduated, they went to this real kind of, but this really Mickey Mouse. It was a perfect circle. Like, they softened up the criminal head.
Was it stripes as his shirt?
Yes, wearing the
like the burglar from
kind of kind of from the McDonald's commercial.
Right.
Yeah, and then he had like a ball and chain. It was just like this old territorial prison.
This is my question to you.
Sure.
Did you ride your bicycle around that town when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Did girls ride their bicycles around the town when you were kids?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's flat desert. Let me say this about Eagle Rock. A lot of hills. So like my daughter, for her to learn how to ride a bicycle, I had to take her to the Eagle Rock Mall, the downstairs parking lot where you just to find flat space is a thing.
My terrible point, because I'm childless, so it's easy for me easy for me to judge. And by the way, I judge all my friends the same way. And
it's natural, of course.
We grew up in kind of the last gasp of full freedom for children.
Oh, hold on. Again, that's a perspective issue. And you're going to get better as you do this show more often. Let's look at it this way.
Please.
Let me put it this way. I'm not the first to say this. This is just when I got on my bicycle when I was a kid.
Yes.
There was 2 or 3 motivations. One was just to get the hell out of the house.
Right.
Fine. The other was to go where my friends were, to hang out with my friends.
Right.
Or go to the library to pick up some sort of culture.
Really?
Well, yeah, because not a lot's coming into
Good
Yuma,
for
Arizona.
you.
Well, I'm just saying there's books, and you could get albums. Like a lot of my early jazz listening was albums I got from the library. And I was like, okay, Thelonious Monk, I'm getting this. But I could turn myself for free.
How old were you?
But this is early teens, late, yeah.
Good,
Okay, but
good for you.
Oh, thank you. But so it was to pick up culture and entertainment,
Yep.
or to hang out with friends.
You didn't jump
Hold on,
over
hold
ramps
on.
and
I'm
stuff?
just saying.
Okay, he's holding up the phone.
I'm holding up my iPhone now. The kid, a young kid now,
Yeah.
can pick up culture, literature, ideas. It's all here on the phone. Hanging out with friends, I can chat and FaceTime. So I'm just saying the purpose of the bicycle, and also this is down to bike lanes and slowing down traffic. This is literally a retarded idea. Meaning it slows things down.
Right.
It's weird that it's like, let's make more room for bicycles. And bicycles, they don't pollute. There's great event, great workout. It's I love it. I love it. My daughter and I will ride around Lake Hollywood. It's a gorgeous way to spend time.
Wow.
But isn't the idea to get people kind of moving a little faster and across town? To go back to something that was developed before the Civil War? We're going to accommodate this? This is not innovation, people. This is going backwards. So I just don't, it's kind of like, well, why don't we just go on tour using like a Zeppelin then? If we're going to go at this rate. So
You would get your press.
bicycles are lovely. I'm just saying at our age, look, there was someone at some point, there's two dudes such as ourselves, not that long ago, saying, God, kids these days, they don't even know how to ride a horse. Ride a horse. They can't even, or even just manage a carriage. They can't even draw a carriage and unask the Kemp. There's like, whatever. I heard people our age, like, they don't even know how to drive a stick shift. I'm sitting there thinking, why should they?
I really don't know how to either.
Oh no, I mean, but I'm just saying, it's like,
I hear your point. I hear your point.
yeah, let's talk about what matters to them, not what used to matter to us.
Right. I am the old man saying get off my lawn, aren't
you
I?
are. Yes, you are, sir. But you'll come, and I don't know, maybe, again, you're going to have, God, I'm so excited for you, Tony. I'm so excited for you and this idea of yours to do this. This is a big, big long-range project. And I actually think I'm hoping you're going to do a much better and focused job than Huell Hauser did.
He's one of my idols.
I assume.
Focused. He was able to do it in an hour. We're at close to 2.
I'm just saying sometimes I don't know if he was really, I'm not so sure he was aware of whether what he was talking about was fascinating or not.
Right.
So hopefully you'll talk to, you're going to
Because
come
you fall in love with your subject. That's why I need Jordan so bad to be my editor.
Yeah. You need that second set of eyes. and
Springsteen
ears.
had that journalist who edited Born to Run.
Oh, John Lindau. Yeah. So the other perspective. So the idea here is you're going to come across a lot of people that are going to agree with you in your grievances.
Yeah.
But I'm really more excited about
My grievances.
the guests that don't agree with you.
Who push back.
I
want people to push back. I
we
want it
say
to be
that
a conversation.
We say that. And
no.
no. And
I'm
you're
okay.
a journalist by nature.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to kick in, hopefully, and that's how, you're going to learn.
Yes.
You're going to learn, and watching that shift happen is what's going to be I'm just so, like I said to you on the phone, I'm so curious as to how different you're going to be when you're done. Things will be full circle. It's the journey. Don't worry about the destination. Just enjoy that journey because it's a special thing you're doing.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome,
this. How great was Eugene? You know who else are hired guns without whom we'd be sitting on a stool alone and sad? Our Patreons. When you stoke us, you're saying, Tony, Jordan, here's some guitar strings. Here's a music stand. Here's a Fender Telecaster, like what Prince and the Boss play. Every donation you hand over helps keep this insane project a-rolling. So shout out to our Patreons, Nancy Rommelman, who, by the way, is safe back from her excursion in the Ukraine. Mamma mia. Sean Atlow, Matt Mills, Sean Wallace, Greg and Molly, Janie Taylor, Mark Johnson, Kira Ann, Barney Granke, Ben Welsh, Henry Furman, Jen Adams, The Lonely Chair, Trevor Wilson, and Bree Wild. Want to hear your name at the end of the show? Go to patreon.com/hereinla and give till it hurts. By the way, speaking of renovations, one of our Patreons, Mark Johnson, is single-handedly renovating our web presence, and for that he deserves all the love. So thank you, Mark. Thank you. Also, that was a crowd cheering. Also, shout out to our Angelinos. To be an Angelino, all you got to do is PayPal us $25 or more, and we will list you on the Here in LA website that Mark is building forever. You will also be given a number to denote how early you got in. For example, Angelino number 1 is Allie Miller. Number 2, George Wright. Number 3, Rita Joanne. 4, Jason Sutter. 5, Grant Houghton. 6, Rob Baker. 7, Kev Cheng. And 8 is Brenda Garcia. Just PayPal your hard-earned cash to busblog@gmail.com. Want to support us, but, you know, we can still, you can still help. Post your favorite episode on your Facebook. Mr. Mark Brown just did that. If you want, you can post too. Tweet something nice about this. Tell your friends. Tell them how Here in LA is spelled, and it's on Apple Podcasts and Google and Spotify. Here in LA is produced by myself, Tony Pierce, and the Steve Naive of this band, Jordan Katz. Editing, mixing, and music supervision by Jordan Katz. Songs by Orgone, Jordan Katz, and you may have heard some finger picking by our guest, Eugene Edwards. Thank you. Special thanks to Cindy for creating the logo, Jen for inspiring this, and Joe Armstrong for telling us about Eugene. Play Freebird!